welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you had a very, very Merry New Year and Happy Christmas. Do you like the trailer, ladies and gentlemen? It was made by Dakota himself. He made that for it. You know when you're going up in the world, don't you? When somebody makes you an HD trailer, don't you? You know? So, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Drew, my co-host for tonight, and Neil, our story. What does the R stand for?
I daren't tell you, it's a mixed audience for ages.
No.
The R stands for soul. No, it doesn't. It stands for Robert, which is part of my Scottish ancestry. Yes, absolutely.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for coming, because I've actually, a lot of people will watch this back tonight. I've got a lot of friends in Australia, and over there, I think it's like, 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night over there. I think it's ridiculous times. But anyway, Neil, did you have a lovely Christmas?
Thank you for welcoming me along. It's nice to see you both.
Yeah. Did Santa Claus bring you anything nice, Neil?
Well, when you're a man as lucky as myself, there's always something beautiful in my stocking.
You're brilliant, but Drew gave me a reading last night. She does tarot card readings, and she told me the spirit says that I have to lighten up a wee bit and I have to be more out of myself. And that's just absolutely brilliant. So Neil, obviously I brought you on. This show is mostly about Scotland, but we're starting to break out now. We're starting to go into the world and explore new places.
Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and for my lovely followers in the chat?
Well, I can. And first of all, they're thinking, who's that Sassenach? They're thinking he's got an English accent on a Scottish show. Well, I can tell you I have this English accent for a very good reason. My family fought for the Bonnie Prince, and they had to get out of Scotland pretty darn quick after Culloden.
The guys are boat.
We're all friends.
So that's why. We've got if you look at the old Storey surname in Scotland, it's spelt Storey, Storie, and they were part of Ogilvy's regiment at Culloden. They were septs of the Ogilvies. So I can't profess to be a true blood Scotsman. We're Lowlanders, but I feel very comfortable visiting and speaking about Scotland, a country that, although I'm a mere visitor, I certainly love it and its history, and I respect it. And the warmth of the people, the welcome that I've always received there has been second to none.
Yeah, Scotland to me, I see as part of the UK. Okay? I mean, I see it as part of England, part of Ireland. It's the United Kingdom. You know, that's what I see now. If my great ancestors
probably love me, when we get the salt flying, boy, we'll change it.
Only for the time being. But as I say, in my family past, I was from McDonald's family. We were mostly wiped out. You know, during those times, so it's you know.
So don't forget, I marched in Edinburgh, and I think as a great country, it deserves its own identity. Again, you know.
Yes, I mean
it's contentious, I know, but that's what my ancestors fought for.
I see it like that because our ancestors fought for it.
I maybe one day. I mean, I see Scotland. You know, I have to try and the kind of political.
Well, the point is, it's a dignity of a country that deserves to be recognised in its own right. Now, that doesn't always have to mean it has to be completely separated from the rest of the UK. But what it can mean is that it's given more respect, and the respect that such a country deserves, respect in its own right. So maybe there is a middle ground that can happen without having borders and all sorts of rubbish put up. Maybe, you know, let's just have some respect for an ancient and noble country that deserves to have its own identity.
Because I find when people are talking about Scotland abroad, they always say Britain. But if they're talking about England, they always say England. It's like the Scottish are not worthy of getting that one title, you know. It's got to be British.
Right. I I do get that. I mean, I kind of remember I was watching the Olympics one night, and this is years ago, and it was England won a medal, and England's won a medal. I go, oh, right, yeah. Well, everybody's cheering. Scotland won a medal, and Scotland got a medal, and it was Great Britain's got a medal.
Yeah.
Why could you not just say Scotland for? Why could you not just say Scotland for once? You know, why could you not just say
just
Scotland's
the
got a
ones.
medal? You know?
I certainly think so, and maybe have its own national anthem.
Oh,
why not? So it's distinct. This is the point. So we can be part of a united country, but have things that make Scotland distinguishable from the rest. So when you're playing an anthem, then the nation's anthem can be whatever you like.
For sure.
I must agree with you 100% there. I mean, Scotland could be part. Obviously, it could still be independent, but it could still be part of the United Kingdom. We could still share our resources.
Right.
We could still work together. We could just, exist
and I
together.
think a lot of people would be happy at that. I really do.
I think a lot of people would be.
It's a sense of identity. Yes. That's what it's about. And my other branch of my family are Norfolk people. So we're from the far east of England. And believe you me, Norfolk people are fiercely keen on our identity. It's really important. Same for people from Suffolk, Devon, Cornwall, Northumberland,
See, that's where I find that very interesting, because people think I'm Scottish, right? I was born in Scotland, right? But my grandfather, on my father's side, my father's mother was born in Scotland, MacDonald, right? As I was discussing you before the show with that soldier. But his father was born in Basingstoke.
Yeah.
And his father, believe it or not, was French. And that's why that's my name. My last name's Mole, obviously. So it's actually Mule. Pronounced Mule is French for muscle. And see, you learn something new every day. Yeah.
So you will now be known as the Big Muscle from Bolden Bonkers. How about that?
You're the Muscle and Bolden Bonkers.
I think you could get a very different following for that one, Chris.
I think, well, my TikTok's open, ladies. I'm out there, But anyway, going back to Scotland, Neil, I mean, you must have some amazing places you've been to in Scotland. I mean, there was that place, that headstone. You sent me a picture of a headstone, which for this day, I could not find another like it. Now, I should have downloaded that photo, but that was interesting.
We'll talk in more detail about that. But for those that do know their Scotland, this is from where the rector that wrote The Invisible Kingdom was based. If you know your Scottish history, you'll know where that is. And we've got a little bit more research to do on this, and I want to see if we can get this headstone preserved without it being interfered with or any. But the headstone depicts a goblin.
Yes.
And it's not weathered. In other words, that sometimes you'll see a cherub or even a skull that has become weathered with time, and it will look quite different on the headstone. This has been carved, as a goblin or some sort of troll. I suspect it works in the same way as a gargoyle or similar monstrous depiction that you would see on the outside of a church. The idea being to keep the evil spirits away. I suspect that's what it was for, but no one that I've spoken to has ever seen the like of it on any
I've
other
never seen anything like it.
Wow.
I mean, that's what I used to do before I got into this kind of stuff, podcasting and stuff like that. I used to research. That's what I was good at. I was really good at research, right? And I spent ages on that. I spent ages and ages. I ran it through software that would actually run it through through a database of photos, right? Nothing come up. The only thing that popped up, and it's weird you said gargoyle, was a church, and I think it was in Germany, and it was a gargoyle that looked kind of the same on a church, which I found quite strange.
Well, it's
why
so
is it
far
there?
away. But the odd thing is that when you do look at depictions of demons, demons that are sometimes named.
Yes.
The face of the demon can look eerily similar in be it depicted on paper, parchment, or in stone. That's, I think, quite eerie.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll not be aware the location.
Do you want to know what I find is... Sorry, Chris.
No,
do you want to know what I find quite eerie is that through time as it goes on, if you ever notice when people are trying to like change your mind towards demons, that they try to make them beautiful human men. Have you noticed that they're not ugly anymore and wee fat trolls? They're like beautiful men with long black hair and things. So they're getting clever, these entities and things, to try and rope you in. That's what I find eerie.
I think you're right, Drew. And what's intriguing, over the years, that manifestation has also been the beautiful woman. Who think of cases, the sirens from the sea, even mermaids, that when they are on land, they are beautiful. They cannot walk easily on land because they do, in some cases, they no longer have the fish tail. They have feet that materialize. But for them to walk on land, it's like walking on glass. In some of the stories. But some of these mermaids did manage to get to church doors. So the old sayings and old stories go, and they would hear the people singing inside. And the little mermaids would wait at the door. That's attached to places like Upper Sheringham in Norfolk, where there's a most beautiful medieval bench end depicting a mermaid.
Wow. Yes. There you go. I didn't know that.
It's quite interesting because Scotland's got a lot of mythical creatures, right? Scotland, you've got the Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, we actually did a show before Christmas about that, and oh my God, the mythical creatures in Scotland are just ridiculous. I mean, you've got strange creatures like goblins up near that area, actually, which is quite interesting where that gravestone is.
There are goblins,
is that
fairies,
tied in?
Brownies, and little folk, none of which will I mock. Because I've travelled around Europe, and I've also travelled to places like the Isle of Man. Now, on the Isle of Man, there is a strong belief in little folk. And there is a fairy bridge there where there are garlands left. And if you don't acknowledge the little folk as you go over that bridge, something might well happen to your vehicle. And I've spoken to people where every tyre the following morning has not been slashed, it's been let down. Or there'll be something damaged the vehicle. Conversely, and I've experienced this is the odd thing, it's down in a valley. Now, it might be a natural phenomena. But I've worked on the Isle of Man. I've lectured at King William's College. And travelling back to digs one night, we went through a valley and went through where this little fairy bridge is. We acknowledged the fairies, and it had been a very thick fog. And as we went up the valley on the other side, it was as if there was no fog in the air at all that night.
That's very interesting. And that's actually weird just to say that, because there's actually a place near Skye, and it's called the Fairy Bridge. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know exactly what you know.
The Fairy Bridge, that's right.
There's the Fairy Bridge near Skye, and there's a castle near it. It's just over the back foot, and there's actually a flag inside the castle because I want to go there. And the old tale is that the person that lived there was told by the fairy kingdom if they raised that flag, they would come and protect the castle.
Right.
And that's something that I've always wanted to go, because it was actually a Lane Warren. It was the Warrens that actually, that's how I found out about it. They were doing a talk about it, and I watched it on YouTube, and I thought that's so interesting. And I do
go there and investigate that.
Yeah, well, up the Skye, I think that would be a very...
Now, I can tell that you've got a nice, soulful clientele. The way that you speak and the way the auras that you have.
Thank you.
And you may have heard of this place. some of your listeners may not, who are resident in Scotland and have been all of their lives. It's quite obscure. Have you heard of Dunino Den?
I've heard that. No, I've heard people talking about it, but
Very
I don't know
few
what it is.
people know about it. It's not geared up as a tourist attraction. But I will share this with you on the understanding, I hope, that anybody wishing to visit the Dunino Den, which is behind the church in the village, do it respectfully, please. I think it's a very special place. It's very ancient.
Right.
It will date back, I would say, to around about 1,000 years, if not more.
Oh.
And you walk to the back of the church now through a wooded glade.
Right.
And at the bottom of this glade is a ledge that goes down to a river. At the top of the ledge is a stone. And in the stone is a small pool. It's a sacrificial pool.
Right.
With a step mark where the person making the offering would have put their foot. And you can see that has been worn down naturally over hundreds of years that it was used in the past. The sacrifice is believed to have been an animal that would be cut, and it would bleed into the pool at the top, and then the body would be put into the river. That's what is suggested. We don't know for sure. We don't know how the ancient faiths work. But then, beside this sacrificial area are ancient stone steps carved into the rock face. So you have to have very sensible footwear. And you go down into the den itself, and you'll see that there are little garlands from people. There are little coins. My warning to don't, for goodness sake, do take
an offering.
Take something with you. If even it's a little coin, take a silver coin. Don't take them copper. They can tell if you're being stingy.
Yeah, take them something worthwhile.
Or if you've got a euro from a holiday, for example, that is golden, that's quite nice.
Like that.
I'd take them a pound coin, I think.
Yes, but take it down. But for goodness sake, any of our listeners, don't take anything away with you.
No,
okay.
No, never. I've learned my lesson.
Don't take it. Just take it. But there's lots of gaps in the rock. Push it into the rock and leave that for the little folk there. If I could be bold enough, now I'm sure there's loads of very, very experienced paranormal researchers that listen to this show. Well, I've been doing this since the 1980s, and if I could just please and with respect share a little bit of something sometimes we've all got to rewind a little bit and get. And I think what's happening with paranormal research is that we've got some incredible devices, SLS, voice recording, and that's brilliant. But can we just, in places like Dunino Den, just for a little while, you don't have to do it forever, but when you are approaching it, why not turn everything off? That would be my respectful suggestion. Yes, believe it or not, folks, you can turn a mobile phone off for approximately half an hour.
See, that's something I like to do. See, when we go to like a location, turn it. Just don't do an investigation. Just go there as a normal person to see what you. Yeah,
you've all, and I mean that. Even if people say, "Well, no, everybody has an element of the gift, a sensitivity." Which the more that we rely on mobile phones and any type of data processing and anything that's electronic, you're killing it. You're killing the natural skills that you have. And when you go to somewhere so ancient, in fact, I'd say your the real baseline investigation, the way I've done this now since the 1980s, my original, the baseline is you going with you.
Yes.
That's it. You, the way you feel, and soak it up.
Yeah.
Don't just wander around. Sit down if you can. Sit down. Stop. Listen.
And just listen.
Yeah.
Soak it up. And do you know what? If you do that, particularly in these very spiritual places, you might get something a lot more positive than you ever expected, you ever anticipated. And I say that with respect and affection for everybody in the paranormal world that know and respect the paranormal. For goodness sake, just try it.
See, I would do something like that just to restore my faith in the paranormal. I wouldn't go use anything, and I would just go in to say, right, this is the chance to just see for sure that all this is real, and it probably would make you thrive more without any devices, you know.
I've taken people there from all over the world now, and the word they use is they get a buzz. I certainly get a buzz from the place. It's a hum, almost palpable pulp in the head. It's not offensive. It's not horrible. It's a power buzz that you get. But if there's any electronics near you, anything like that, it's not circus time. You know, in places like that, go in, be quiet, soak it up. Then, once you've soaked it up, once you've restored some of your natural abilities, then that's the time. And it might, do you know, sometimes I think in the paranormal world, some things are just meant to be seen by you.
Yes.
You don't have to prove it to the world. You don't.
There's a place near me, and I'm not giving away its location because I know there's people round about me. There's a place near me, and it's a kind of ancient creek, right? And it's coming off the hills and mountains, right? And it's beautiful. See, in the summertime, you've got the bluebells, right? It's really mystical. I'll go there and I'll turn my phone off, and I'll sit, and you'll see the water. You can drink the water; it's that pure because it's coming out the ground. It's bubbling out the ground, and you can hear nature, and you can hear. You can just hear things. You get the odd plane goes over now and again. It's like you're bonding with what you used to be before all of this technology, before all this stuff. And I think that's what's missing for humans now: the interaction.
That's the power of Mother Nature.
It really is, Drew, and you're right, Chris. You've got to have a baseline. Now, if you're starting off with noise. For a start, that's not. How will you know if you hear something paranormal? If you can't tune your ears in and the way you feel, the way you feel into a baseline, what are you starting with? You're not starting with a level playing field. The foundations, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a solid foundation for paranormal research. I know some people will disagree, and I respect that.
Okay,
but from my point of view and the way I research the paranormal, it begins with a firm foundation of respect, of as quiet as possible, an open mind, but be calm and let your body, and you'll get so much more, I think. And I've worked with a lot of the old school paranormal researchers that I've known have all done this. This is not me thinking, this is some sort of guru idea. These are the old school, genuine paranormal researchers doing this for years before me, back to the 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s, years on. Not table rappers, genuine old school paranormal researchers. And it's always the results that we've got. The tune in, because you don't want this. In fact, if you've ever done this and you've got another group that come in with all the SLS and recording material and pods and pucks, it sounds like the circus comes to town, ladies and gentlemen.
I think it scares the spirits. See, if you're in a location where it's really old, I feel the spirits really back off the minute you start bringing out these things that light up, they make a noise and things. They really
how many people stop to think that what you're bringing out, you have got the most horrific number of women persecuted for witchcraft in Scotland.
Yeah.
Now, the souls of these innocent women, the majority of them never done any witchcraft in their life. It's a foul, horrible accusation.
Exactly.
But their spirits and the time that can be trapped and the time that they came from, if somebody had produced a paranormal puck or an SLS in front of them, that's witchcraft.
Exactly.
Some
of them have never seen light.
Electronic device is beyond the comprehension of any of these people. So for goodness sake, if you're going to use it, start with a baseline and say, I'm from many years after your time. This is it's our candle. It's electric. Yeah, it's crazy. I can't explain it, but believe you me, in the future we've got this. Explain it to them.
See, it's something that it's weird you say that, because it's something I've always wondered, because they say spirits use like electromagnetic energy to travel, right, and communicate. If you walk in, like, there's maybe 70 years or 80s, right, and you're all geared up. You've got the cameras, you've got the iPhones, you've got everything, right. You walk into that zone, the iPhone's going to be giving off
frequency
signals. Yes, the smartwatches are going to be giving off its Bluetooth frequency, right? Then you're going to get the cameras. You're going to get the cameras, which are all interlinked with each other, communicating with each other with their cameras, talking to each other with frequencies going about. The spirits are just going to be standing there going, "I'm not going near them."
That's right. It's like going in to a concert and it starts at the crescendo.
Yeah,
it starts at where every instrument that's in the orchestra is playing, and it's dreadful. Start with your bass line, and then maybe I think when you're a bit more tuned in, you'll be more sensitive to: is there somebody trying to reach me?
Yes.
Am I feeling a presence in here? And if you are, I don't think there's anything wrong with just using one camera. Just one.
People are so scared that they've missed that big thing. But the thing is, though, I think that sometimes you need to know yourself that something's there. Maybe hear something without the cameras and everything on. And then that gives you the encouragement when the cameras are on to push a wee bit further, because you know something's there, you know.
And do you really have to prove it to everybody else?
Exactly.
Sometimes this might just be a gift for you. For you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because a lot of us have a guiding spirit. They might just be wanting to speak to you.
Yeah.
We
do the spirit box in the house a lot on live streams, and we find through, like me, Danny White Wolf, and a few others, that the same spirits come through over and over again, and we've surmised that it is actually our guides that is coming through different times that we turn the box on, whether it's my stream, Danny White Wolf streams, or whatever, and it's all the spirits around us. And I feel they're there on the locations that we go to, you know, because I've heard them. The guides go with us.
I agree with you. And do you know what? I rate simple things for communication. People used to talk about communication using candles. But nowadays, you know, if you use these little twist end mini mag lights, you know the ones?
Right.
Yep. Yep, I know what you're talking about.
I have seen these. And they're not special. You just go and buy them from any cheap shop.
Yeah.
And you twist it so it's just between off and on.
Yeah.
And you leave it there on the table. And calm. You start asking questions.
Yeah.
And that will think about yes or no. Are you a man? Are you a woman? Do you know anybody here? Keep it simple. But once it gets really working, and I have seen this personally when I was in Scotland for the very first time,
right?
And it works, and because these are on their little shutter, they can blink on, blink off, but it can also, and this is something I had never seen. Remember, there's no magnets. We were doing this outside around a picnic table, outside a hotel, Abelard Hotel. It's not far from Slains Castle, actually.
Right.
I think I know
Lovely
the one you're
place.
talking about.
You'll know it. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
Gothic hotel. We were in the garden there, and we got a rapport with the spirit, and he was a drover of cattle. Lovely.
Yeah.
And he was clearly a man who liked the ladies.
He'd have been
And one of the
fascinated with the
ladies was
light then.
from Southern America. And she had this lovely southern drawl. She said, "I kind of think you like the ladies." Well, this light flashed, and you could tell the spirit was laughing, and we were having it was absolutely incredible, with nothing else than a little mini mag light that you just twisted the edge. No magics, they were very well handled in that the circle was opened by experienced mediums and closed.
Yes, exactly.
With experienced mediums and cleansed and really properly and calmly done. Beautifully done. Actually,
I mean,
I tell you who was one of the experienced mediums working on that was a lady by the name of Michelle Rios, and she's one of the daughters of Hecate from America, and her daughter Brittany, very talented, and they'd come over with a group of paranormal researchers from America. But
I do believe witchcraft can be very, very handy in the paranormal field. I mean, I know through like different rituals and things that not that I've done, that I've read and maybe researched or came across, that they can help you like with past, like if you go into a place and there's a portal open, for example, and you know there's a portal open, there's plenty of rituals out there you can do. And we have ghost hunting boxes that we keep sage and different things in. There's plenty of things you've got in that kit that you can close that portal down. It's just knowing how to do it, So
and
it's
be
hands up knowing these things.
Most of those that are in a public figure who is a genuine witch will at least give you advice. About opening or closing it, or they might even say, "Don't attempt it on your own unless you're with a genuinely, not just somebody who says they're an experienced medium, but somebody who is, a track record." Somebody, and a lot of mediums, they tend to know each other. They know who, if before you go out, maybe read a book about it. That's great, but also speak. There's lots of very good mediums out there.
I definitely think that also when you go to a location, you treat the spirits with respect. I don't like these YouTube shows and stuff that they'll go into a house, they'll go into a location, it's maybe phone a bit, and the first thing is they go across that door, they don't introduce themselves. I like to introduce myself, right? And I like to say, well, can I come in and stuff like. Obviously, the spirits can't say it back. I mean, right? But you just try and be polite.
We tend to walk around and tell them to get used to our energy. Like you don't need to talk just trust.
Trust. You build up the trust between them. There might be a spirit, a dead soldier, for instance, in a battlefield that might think, "Oh, what's he up to over there?" And maybe every time you go back, because it's getting used to you, it's maybe starts to trust you, right? And then it'll start talking to you.
But show the palm of your hand and say, "I greet you all well, spirits that may be with us. I come, or we come, in peace. We mean no harm. We mean no disrespect. But we would love to hear your story. This is your chance, if you wish it, to share it with us." Never demand. Never demand.
I've seen people.
Cemeteries, sorry, Chris.
Yes, I've seen people that'll go in, and I'm like, "Oh no, don't!" And the first thing they start doing is shouting and swearing and demanding that they do something. And then when they do something, they all get even more heckled. Their backs get all heckled, and they start doing even more. And then they wonder why they get an attachment. Something follows them home.
Yes,
because you've pissed this like dead soldier, or you've pissed off this.
You are summoning, and in fact, if you imagine if you'd been dead or in a stasis or for hundreds of years. Yeah. And this is the first person to reach you. And there's I command you to come out and speak. Oh, for goodness sake, man. Or woman. You know, for goodness. No, go away. I'm gonna go away for another 500 years, mate. Just say hello. Yes. Hello. Yes. My name is. Hello.
Yeah. When I'm in a cemetery, I do that. I tend to tell them why I'm there. And then I always say, I'm going to walk around. And if you want to talk to me, follow me around and speak to me. Because they really aren't going to speak to you unless they want to anyway. So usually I say that and walk around. And then 9 out of 10 times when you turn the box on, you get something. Because I like
your style. I think you're absolutely right. And I think by... not trying to command. Look, these guys don't try and get the skeletons to dance.
Exactly.
Sometimes you are going to draw nothing. But the calmer you are, the more open you are, the experiences that await you. You can walk into just about any if you can be calm, quiet, non-tech baseline, you can walk into many historic places or even new places, and you can you will feel an atmosphere.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
You will, and you'll start to soak it. And that would be my message. Do not please. I mean, I wouldn't tell anybody what to do, but for goodness sake, don't reach for a Ouija board. Oh
no,
oh God,
no. There's no need for a Ouija board.
No,
you know, there's just no need for it.
I've got a thing
out there.
I've got a thing where I like to get into old graveyards. Now, I don't do it in new graveyards. I've got a thing where I don't like to ghost hunt new graveyards. I just don't do it. I don't walk. No. I don't really go into the new parts, right? I'll when I'm doing my videos, I'll kind of avoid the new parts, right? It's just a bit of respect because they've just been the people have just been But I'll go to the old parts that's maybe like 200-300 years old, and I'll sit down, and I'll just sit there and I'll listen to the birds tweeting, and you get the feeling, you know, you're the only one there. But then you feel it. You get the feeling that they're watching you.
You know when they're there after that.
It's like you don't see them with your eyes. You see them with your head, as if they're like looking around corners and tombstones at you.
Although on occasion, I and others, maybe even you get a tap. I've had a tap on the shoulder, as distinct as somebody coming up. You know, in the old trick, you tap on one shoulder, you look around, there's nobody there, and your mate's on the other side. As distinct as that, I assure you. And I thought friends are messing me about, you know, other team members. No, it can be that distinct. And
because up at Burtwood Castle, you do get hugged. I mean, there's occasions when we've been up there, and it's not until after it that you realise that was definitely a hug. When that, you know, it's you know when it's a hug, you know.
You do.
So you definitely can get that communication. Yeah, I get that a lot.
But be aware, it's not always creepy. It can sometimes be a woman from the past that would maybe admire somebody's modern hairstyle.
Well, there's not going to admire mine.
Had it shorn up at the back. So they've got it all cut really short. They're not used to that. It might be that was something shameful done when they'd cut the hair years ago. Or she might say, "Oh, poor thing," and she'll touch the back of your head.
So maybe.
It's weird you say that. It's weird you say that because there was, when I was walking around the graveyard one day, I'm sure somebody touched my top of my head, and obviously I'm bald. I'm like a cannonball, right? And I was in a really old graveyard, and I mean a really old graveyard for like the 11th century. And in their days, you didn't really get many bald people, did you?
No, because people would have
didn't really live that long. Yeah, I mean it was.
People would have been ashamed.
They'd be like, that guy. Well, in the 18th century, and of course before, they did often wear wigs.
That's right.
They would be. They would have their head shorn because of the lice. So these cavaliers, or the periwigs of the 18th century, if they went to the barbers, they'd go to the barbers and he'd shave their whole head. And the wig would be taken off and it would go to the perruquier, who would tidy that all up. And then it would be brought back and placed on your head by the barber.
Wow. Crazy.
The only time
Obviously,
you
I'll
tended
get
to
on
see
to
a
it.
gentleman with his wig removed was if he was off to a boxing match, perhaps, if he was a boxer.
Right.
Or if he was going to duel by sword. So in case the wig
Right.
fell, you'd take the wig off and you
I didn't know that. Right. Wow.
Obviously, we'll talk about a wee bit about Slains Castle in a moment or two, but there's a location that I've not been to. I'm Scottish, yes, I know, and I've not been to this location, right? But I bet you have, Neil. And it's an interesting location. It's one that I'm hoping to get to this year, and it is Roslin Chapel. What can you tell me about that?
Now,
I had to say it.
Roslin
I
Chapel
had to bring it
is
up.
special. Have you been there, Drew?
No, but I've had people request it on my channel actually just in the last couple of weeks.
Well, my
Roslin
darlings, maybe
Castle.
we should all go together.
We should.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I am a free and accepted Freemason. I was made a Mason when I was 21 years old. So I've been in a very, very long while. So the Masonic symbolism of Roslin Chapel, I can share a little bit with you without giving away any secrets. There's also a very good, the guides there are exceptionally good.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is like no other chapel.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I've seen anywhere really, and particularly in Scotland, where they are very plain, very skillfully made, but in the main, chapels are pretty plain with no decoration. And you go to Roslin, I mean, it's got multiple water stoops outside. Which may have been one for the Lord of the Manor and his staff, and one for the village people that might, or round stuff. I don't know, but that's weird for a start. The buttresses are unusual. The decor inside is extraordinary.
Very.
Not just, I mean, the
For
Lord
it to have lasted as long as well. I mean, what did they use back then?
As a small building, the decoration is akin to something you would see. It's not on a smaller scale, but akin to a cathedral, really, a major place of worship.
I was told a story about it once, but I don't know if it's true or not. And I was told the story. I don't know if you can tell me that it was somebody told me this story. I've actually got family members that are Masons, and they actually told me this story. And the story goes there was two Masons. There was two Masons. One of them was the apprentice, and one of them was the head Mason. And the head Mason was showing him what to do, but he did a better job. I'm just doing a quick kind of story here. He did a better job, and he was very happy.
Didn't like it,
and done away with him.
Well, and that's intriguing. The Master Mason, very good at his job, but he couldn't he wanted to find some inspiration for one of the pillars in particular.
Yeah.
Really wanted to make something special of it. And so he actually went to Rome. So one story tells. And he found his inspiration. He came back. But while he was away, and you are quite right, Chris, the apprentice executed the most remarkable pillar.
Oh, did he do it when he was away?
While he was away. So when the Master Mason returns, he is beside himself with jealousy.
Yeah.
And so he killed his apprentice. Now,
that's different.
People could say that's an allegory to the High and Abiff story of Freemasonry, where there was a slaying because he wouldn't betray his knowledge to those that were not initiated. But what's intriguing is that there was a hiatus in the construction of Roslin Chapel, as if somebody had, the Master Mason had been removed from his position. Nobody knows exactly what happened to him.
Right.
Some say he was executed. Some say took his own life. Or, there's all sorts of stories. It's very mysterious. But there was this hiatus, and it's as if the head Mason was removed or executed, and they had to find another one to carry on.
Right.
But for me, and that's all very good, and it's very mysterious, and some of it was accelerated by Victorian historians. We have to be alive to that. But what remains is this place is incredible to look at.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's that, isn't it? The proof's there.
I find it
It is
fascinating
incredible.
because
But when you go outside, that's even more to me.
Yeah,
It's
the way
even
it's
more
been built.
remarkable.
It's the way it's been built, which is interesting because it's
what's depicted there.
Yes.
Now you've got your goblins and your demons,
Yeah.
your gargoyles in mask form, or the gargoyle with the spout.
Yep.
But amongst them are pre-Christian images.
Yes.
Now, part of me does wonder, were these acquired from another church? Because they you would see them more on a medieval church, a truly early medieval church, somewhere like Norwich Cathedral, where there are many roof bosses, some of which reflect the old religions, which include green men and wood woes.
Right.
And I've seen next to nothing that mentions the green man. Now, a green man is a man of the. He represents. He's a bit like Osiris. He's the life giver and taker. He's depicted in green, and he has leaves growing out of his mouth. He often looks quite fierce because the leaves grow out. So you've got a green man, but you've also got wood woes, which are the old men of the woods. These sort of hairy men. Maybe they're ancient Britons. Maybe they were a different race. Of people once native to Great Britain. Their bodies are often shown as hairy. They carry clubs and they inhabit the woods. We call them wood woes. They've got various names around the country. They are depicted in quite some quantity on the exterior of Roslin Chapel. And
have a look. Wow.
See, a lot of people, they can't wait to get in.
There's more on the outside than there is on the inside.
The best way is if you enter with the sort of entrance visitor centre behind you, don't go to the right to the main entrance. Go to the left where nobody else is going in general.
Right.
And look around the windows.
Yeah.
Not just the bosses, but above and around and on the sides of the windows.
See, I've studied pictures of it because I've never been there. I've studied quite a lot of pictures of it. And I've watched quite a lot of documentaries on it. I mean, the way it was built was different for other churches, the other chapels and stuff. It's pointing. I know that churches, when they're built, they point a certain way, and this one points totally different.
It's crazy.
And what I find very interesting is that there's like stone carvings of like corn inside it. Now, at that time, there was no corn in Europe. It was United States was corn. So how did they know about this? This is the strange thing. See,
it could of course be your barley.
It could be. It could be. It could be.
And you would have that depicted with what's known as the cornucopia or the horn of plenty, which is another Masonic symbol of benevolence. So that may be incorporated in there, but certainly I can't explain it. I don't pretend to be an expert.
It's a beautiful place. You need to look it up,
guys. We need. You see, the adventure weekend. Right, the Bald and Bonkers weekend.
Yeah, so that's that. End you up for the Bald and Bonkers
with special
weekend.
guest stars Neil and Drew and any other posse that we want to muster at. We'll get a little coach or a little big old car, and we'll go. We'll go. And we'll do some recording there at Roslin, and maybe.
Do you think honestly?
Yes.
Do you think it's got a purpose? Honestly, it's something that I've always been interested in because my grandfather was a Mason. Both my grandfathers were Masons. My uncles were Masons. My grandmother's is it the Northern Star, the Eastern Star? It's one of the ones that I've got a lot of Masons in my family, right? And I've heard them tell me stories about Roslin Chapel, and it makes me wonder. I know you're not allowed to say none. But do you know that there is. It's got a purpose. I think it's got a purpose. I don't think it's as today with like grails and stuff like that, but I think it's got something. There's something there deliberately been left there.
There was something special about it.
Pointer that points the way to something, but which I do not know.
I'm as a fan of Indiana Jones, and I make no bones about it.
No,
everybody's got to love Indiana Jones
for the Grail.
Yeah, the Grail.
And great holy relics, because the head of John the Baptist was said to be floating around Great Britain at one time.
Exactly.
Holy Grail, the Cup of Christ, down in Glastonbury, it's said to be there. Who knows what was brought back?
What was the Grail? That makes a show in itself. What was the Grail? I mean, the Grail, was it a bloodline of Jesus? Was it Jesus's wife? Did they actually get married? Was it a bloodline, or was it actually a cup? I don't believe it was a cup. I don't think it was something like that. I think it's something else. I think it's something that was that. I don't think there's nothing there. I just think that is it's a pointer on a map, a bigger map. That's what I think.
Why does there have to be one Grail?
Exactly.
Could there be a cup?
What it was used for as well. If it was a cup, it could have been used for loads of different things.
Yes. So I don't know. There's part of me that wondered. There must have been relics touched by Christ.
Oh yeah,
sure.
So why not have there? Why cannot there not be a cup, or even cups?
Definitely,
which may have led to.
You've always seen the Last
confusion.
Supper. Everybody's seen the Last Supper. You know.
So why not? Yeah, but the trouble is there are so many. There are
so
enough holy nails, to build a ship. But one of the most fascinating relics is the holy prepuce.
I've heard of that.
Do you know what that is, Drew?
I was reading the comments, sorry.
The holy prepuce, Drew.
No, sorry, I don't. What is it?
When Jesus Christ was circumcised, that's his foreskin.
Oh, right, okay. So that's why I didn't know.
And, well, you're quite right, because it was the holy prepuce. There were about 20 of them around Europe at one time. And the Pope was asked to proclaim which one was the real one.
Oh, wow.
A bit hard one, that.
Yeah, no, that's a very different joke, Chris. Which I'm not going to go on that one, right? Because there'll be a zap come down. Potentially, it can go very wrong. But the Pope actually said, no, I'm not going to proclaim any of them, and I ban any further discussion of the holy prepuce. There you go.
Quite right, so.
Yeah, I mean, I heard he'd had a tip off, but hey.
But that was the joke of the day.
That's a good one. Oh god. Oh dear. Oh, that's. Do you know? I just seen something weird there. I just seen like an orb floating past me. And that
I had a good question. I could totally change the subject with. Neil, what was your favourite book that you wrote? What was the most enjoyable book that you've wrote? What did you enjoy?
The most enjoyable book I've ever written was my Dracula Secrets.
Right.
Look, I've always loved the works of Bram Stoker. I'm a child of the 1970s.
Me too. And I'm 50.
So what, you're a 72 baby, just like me.
Yeah.
Are you a May baby?
Yes, I'm May the 6th.
May 28th. Yeah, living the dream. So that means you're more towards Taurus, aren't you?
Yes, I'm Taurus, the bull. Yeah.
Which is like my mum. Whereas I am the Gemini. Late
May. Okay. So you're the balance in the middle.
Well, so they say. But anyway, I grew up with Hammer horror film posters in the. I used to walk past the cinema, local cinema, little town, and I was something about this kind of Hammer world. It's fierce looking. It was frightening. I was genuinely frightened by pictures of Christopher Lee. And I couldn't go and see the films because they were X certificate. Who remembers X certificate? You know?
Exactly.
But I could go into my local newsagent and buy some Topps bubblegum cards for about 5p. You'd get 3 cards and some awful chalky bubblegum, right? You got it? And the cards were lurid stills from films like Dracula AD 1972.
I loved those cards, and I loved the bubblegum as well.
Yeah, one of the few that did. Or maybe it was nicer in Scotland. It was dry as old Harry down here.
And we collected
Anyway,
them with Dracula and things on them. Brilliant.
They all had rubbish jokes on them. They were called shocking laughs. They had rubbish one-liners. Well, the pictures... I was only a little kid. I frightened myself. I frightened myself so much. I had to give my mum the cards and tell her, please don't even put me in the bin because I was so frightened. She had to take them away. Only recently, I bought some more off a well-known internet auction site and re-engaged with them. And here's a funny thing.
The Dracula one was terrifying. I remember that.
It was, wasn't it? And there's lots of blood, and I've never seen anything like that.
Exactly.
But
I remember that. Wow.
With permission, I took them to show some friends' kids, and they've got kids who are 9, 10 years old. I said, look, I showed them the card. These used to really freak me out when I was a kid. And I guess they kind of knew what the reaction would be because they showed their daughters, nice girls, they're not just ordinary kids. And they just looked at them and just... Do they frighten you? Or
television and everything. Because now television and movies and things have took that fear away for things like that. It's everywhere. But when we were younger, there wasn't these big films and things, and it wasn't like in newspapers and magazines, So that's why it was terrifying to us.
I agree. I was the kid that dived behind the sofa at the theme music to Doctor Who.
See, that's the thing, right? See, with me, I was born in 1981. I'm an 80s kid. I was born in 1981. I know. I'm 41. I'm 41 now, and I'm a Virgo, by the way. I just like to point that out there. I'm a Virgo. So I can remember the film that terrified me when I was small was The Night of the Living Dead. But see, now, all this Walking Dead stuff and that's nothing.
I wouldn't have even been able to watch that. But I've written an article for Haunted magazine recently. And it's, we're the children of Dracula, really. We are the last generation. People like Drew and me and many of your listeners who are around the Magic 50. We're the last generation to be really scared by stuff on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, we grew up with newsagents that used to have paperback books with covers like Carrie and the Rats and the Fog. And they've got Severed Heads, Pan Book of Horror and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I remember the Hunchback of Notre Dame film and things. It was pretty terrifying and things when you were young in our day and age.
It was.
And Dracula films and things were scary.
It's true. And when we got to our early teens, they start showing Hammer House of Horror on TV as a series. They're showing the films.
Twilight Zone and things.
And I'm looking, I was allowed to stay up 10 o'clock at night. They put them on because they knew full well I'd be round the door, the lounge, and look like that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't see the end of the film. Right? One glimpse of the black cape with the blooming red line, and I'm off.
I must admit.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. I was just going to. I was going to go. Sorry.
No, I was just
going to.
Go on.
I'll say it then. I was just going to say the movies in the days were the best. They're no like movies nowadays. They are they.
They were the best.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And this was the forbidden fruit. So there's a lot of us who are around about this magic age that are really into the paranormal, gothic horror. It's because we are the children of Dracula.
Neil, my mum always told us a story on a Saturday night, and she always started. This is how I really get into paranormal, really, when I think about it. She always told us a scary story on a Friday or a Saturday night, and she always started it off as, "It was a dark and stormy night. 3 men sat by a fire." And I always used to say, "Mum, tell us a creepy story. Tell us a creepy story," because she always started it off like that. So that is why I think I love all the paranormal stories and things, because she put this fear factor into maybe saying that.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. So as I got older, I encountered the book Dracula as a paperback. I got the guts up to watch the films, and so this was that forbidden fruit. And I wanted to know, when I was growing up, a lot of the books, like the Hamlin Book of Horror, which is actually written by, I believe it was a great grandnephew or a great nephew of Bram Stoker, a guy called Dan Farson, that was quite a well-known writer in the 60s and 70s. He was an investigative reporter, very much into Jack the Ripper investigations as well, Dan Farson. But he wrote a bit about Bram Stoker, but a lot of these general ghosts and horror and legends books said not much is known about Bram. And that's been a bit like a red rag to a bull for me. So over the last decades, I've started collecting Bram Stoker things, letters, and his other book. He wrote, I mean, there's over 10 novels, and then there's novelettes, there was part works as well. He wrote a book, The Jewel of the Seven Stars, which is one of the first reanimated mummy fiction books. He wrote books set around Cruden Bay, known in those days as Port Errol, things like the Watter's Moo, and he wanted to encapsulate some of the Scottish folklore and legends and language in his books. He loved language, and so as time went on, and I was the first person to see the entire Hall Caine archive on the Isle of Man, which include these incredible letters between Hall Caine and Francis Tumblety, the special branch #1 suspect for Jack the Ripper. They're all in that archive, but Hall Caine and Bram Stoker were really great friends. And Bram even sort of did the business end of Hall Caine's work for him. They wrote it very affectionately together. They stayed together. They were incredibly close. So to see these books, to read these letters,
an honor.
It was a great honor, and it brought me closer. And I've read all the main known manuscripts of Bram Stoker, the known letters of Bram Stoker in universities and colleges, both sides of the Atlantic. So I think maybe there's Dacre, Stoker, and myself that have probably read more Bram than anybody else, because he's not easy to read.
No, I wouldn't imagine it would be.
He had to handle the correspondence, among everything else, the business side really of the Lyceum Theatre in London, which was leased by Sir Henry Irving, the greatest actor of his day. So Bram Stoker had to write all the notes, and if they were personal, supposedly from Irving, it would often be, dear sir, thank you very much. Here are 2 complimentary tickets, but every letter would be signed Henry Irving. So Bram's doing, he's doing a frantic amount of work. He wrote very fast. So Dacre Stoker, who he has the Stoker family archive, the legacy of Bram very much close at heart. We got on very, very well. He says that reading it is rather like Stoker ease, and I quite agree. It's very difficult to get your eye in. There were people like the late Robert 18 Bysang and Richard Dolby, who were both great aficionados on Dracula, both sides of the Atlantic, but sadly both of them have passed away. In recent, there was Leslie Shepherd over in Ireland. We've still got Elizabeth Miller, I believe, is still alive over in the States. But it's a bit of a dying breed. So, but those of us that have managed to hang on long enough are being able to access, thanks to the internet, thanks to archives becoming accessible, becoming known.
And more people will love it.
Written text.
You get a question for you.
So the greatest book I ever enjoyed writing, the greatest enjoyment, was getting to know the man that I had known and come to love, Bram Stoker. And then this year, drawing on lots of the letters that I found, the unpublished material, the colour archive material, the programs.
Wow.
Bram even annotated the programs for the Lyceum Theatre, so we've got little bits from there.
Wow.
So it's not just Dracula; it's Bram the man.
Bram the man. So you've got a good understanding of who Bram is then as a man. Have you got a good understanding of him?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I'd certainly like to have a meal or two with him. If he'd still been around today,
definitely.
I think
it'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
He's actually.
We would have dined together. I'm absolutely convinced of it. He was also a Freemason.
Right.
So we would have met in lodge. I would have made sure of that.
Think he maybe rewriting the work. Rewriting it, bringing it.
You can't change perfection.
Your kind of version. Oh, come on. Your kind of way.
You would have to do it as a kind of diary of or something, wouldn't you?
A diary.
The man's body of work, and it is wonderful. Now, Dacre works with Chris Macaulay in America. Right. They're doing Stokerverse, where they are creating, some sequels. And they're the right guys to do that. I like to think I can tell a good story. I could write a good story, but I'm a historian.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Well, you could add little bits that they don't know, so you can put like a little,
I will always help them. That's the wonderful thing. Bram was such a generous man. Sometimes he gave so much. His son and wife were maybe felt that they weren't number one in his life.
Right. Wow.
And that's why his son,
passionate about his work.
His son was christened Irving after Sir Henry Irving. Irving Noel Thornley Stoker.
Wow.
But he grew. The boy hated Irving because Irving drained Bram of his lifeblood and really took it. To him, I think, he didn't have a dad because Bram's life. And Bram was happy at the Lyceum mostly, but even Bram come to realise, he's been worked to death. Bram died before his time, but Bram would always put his friends first. But the boy became known. He was simply known as Noel Thornley Stoker, and he was cremated, as was Bram.
Yeah.
And their ashes are mixed together now in one casket. I've held the casket.
Oh, you held it? Wow.
It's in...
Is that Nylon Man?
Golders Green Crematorium. Wow. I arranged, and I didn't have to, but I thought it's courtesy to arrange to see the ashes of Bram Stoker. And they said yes, and I arrived there one morning, beautiful winter's morning, and the lady in the reception phoned up the person that was going to take me to the relevant place. But that moment, she phoned up and she said, "Oh, we have a gentleman to see Bram Stoker."
Wow!
And I just for that golden moment
in time,
because Bram was a big fella with a red beard, and I just thought, the big framed man by some magic is going to come through the frosted glass. But
not many people would have those words spoke to them, though, so that's an honour.
That's amazing.
So we went to it in Golders Green Crematorium. You've got everybody from Mark Bolan to Keith Moon to most of the Carry On team, Peter Sellers, lots of actors.
There's another types. Another 70s. The Carry On films. There's never been films like it again.
And there never will because of the comedians that were involved. And we haven't got a Sid James anymore. I'm going to do a quick Sid James now.
Me too. I loved all the Carry On films, especially the hospital ones.
That's what's missing nowadays. That's what's missing nowadays. That's a different world.
And Carry On Screaming, you see, that was great.
There was nothing better than a Sunday afternoon watching the Carry On films.
And Carry On up the
Carry On.
Yeah, that's a good
one. What's the Carry On film? The one where they're fighting is it the Indians? What's
that's
the one
Carry On up the Khyber, and they're having to deal with
is that the one with English
Burkers.
soldiers?
Mm-hmm.
Either the workers.
Yes. Led by Bungadin.
They're amazing.
And the Qazi of Calabar.
The best scene, I love that film. It's the best scene. They're sitting at their they're having their dinner, and there's explosions, they're firing cannons, and the ceiling, there's like stuff coming off the ceiling, landing all in a bit, and they're like drinking their tea and all.
Brilliant. They're great films.
Quintessentially British.
Yes.
Is it not? You can have all of that going on. That's how the Americans learn about the British people.
Carry on camping.
Oh, matron.
Oh, if anybody's never watched the Carry On films, you need to watch them.
Give it a whirl, but maybe some of the younger generation won't appreciate it. My darlings, we are from a dying breed, and we are what we are, and we laughed at what we laughed at then.
Yeah, and we
hope the youngsters won't judge us. I've even seen Benny Hill recently. That's heavily censored. They don't even show the chase at the
Benny
end.
Hill would never be allowed on TV now. Never.
And when I watched Till Death Do Us Part, that sounded more like a Morse code message than a television program because the number of
and George and Mildred. I love George and Mildred.
Oh yes, dear Eutha Joyce.
What about Porridge? They've censored Porridge too. Porridge used to be
Porridge lingers, that does well. I used to like The Adventures of Dick Turpin.
Oh, yeah. My big brother liked that.
Yeah? Do you remember that?
I remember it.
With Richard O'Sullivan.
That's right.
Who I believe, last time I heard, I believe he's still around. He's still alive.
Oh, wow.
Quite an old boy now, but Richard O'Sullivan is still alive in a sort of retired actor's home.
It's the guy. What do you call him? Is it Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? What's his name?
Dick Van Dyke, Mary Poppins.
He's still alive. My brothers met him.
Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, my brother delivered he's a motorbike courier.
Welcome everybody. Hello, sisters.
To his house. He's still alive. I mean, that's
wonderful.
It is old.
I understand he still goes to the gym, Dick Van Dyke. I've got friends in America who are acquainted with him, and he's apparently a really nice guy.
Yeah.
I bet he's down to earth.
Well,
very humble.
I mean, we need to get you back again. We need to get you back again, Neil. I mean, we need to do an adventure to Roslyn Chapel. You know, we need to go to Slane's Castle. You know, that's one of the places that I really want to go to this year.
I'm literally a train ride away because a lot of my time I spend it in Northumberland.
Right.
And Edinburgh's only a short way away, and a little bit further than that. I'm sure we could meet at a mutual place.
Yes, we could.
And have a wee adventure.
We could have a wee adventure. Well, everybody, I would like to thank you, Neil, for coming on the show tonight, guys. His links for his books are below, guys. Could you please go out and spend all your money and buy all his books for us, you know?
And I've checked they're all on Amazon, guys, and I have put it on my community wall. If anybody wants to check out my channel.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for listening, and thank you for welcoming. I hope I haven't preached to the converted.
No,
I just try and share a little bit of knowledge and love of the paranormal and gothic horror.
Yeah.
I met some wonderful people when I was first involved with the hobby, and all I want to do is just share some of that wonderful knowledge that was imparted.
We want to hear it, Neil. We want to hear it. So
and I'll maybe need to talk to you again about getting you back in a couple of months' time to talk some more stuff.
That.
You know.
Thank you very much indeed.
And
I will tell you not only about other ghostly things, but I've discovered, this is hot off the press, a cache of some published a long while ago, some not published before, UFO reports.
I would like to talk to you about that actually after the show, because
they're all UK. They are UK Observer Corps, Royal Air Force, and UFO investigation groups in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s.
Well, that's very interesting, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to thank everybody in the chat tonight for coming.
Thank you
all across the different platforms. And I would like to thank Drew for coming on. Remember, check our channel out, Drew's Paranormal Vlog. And listen, guys, we'll see you next week at a different location. And Neil, I'll talk to you behind the scenes. So everybody, catch you later. And I hope you all have a fantastic